uchunguzi wa kiini cha kifo chake tarehe 28 mwezi Februari mwaka huu na naibu jaji mkuu Kalpana Rawal. Zubeida Kome, KTN leo.
Many thanks for joining us. President Uhuru Kenyatta says his administration will continue to support devolution as enshrined in the Constitution. Uhuru warned against polarization and divisions stemming from the power games, saying the two levels of government should not split but unite the country into prosperity. Uhuru was speaking at the memorial service of Professor George Saitoti in Kitengela.
Family and friends gathered at the late Professor George Saitoti's Kitengela home for his memorial service, 1 year after his death, with 5 others aboard the ill-fated chopper that crashed in Ngong Hills just 10 minutes after takeoff from Wilson Airport. President Uhuru Kenyatta, among those in attendance, challenged the country's leaders to emulate the late Saitoti's humility and spirit of servant leadership.
Saitoti's leadership is a leadership that I believe we would all like to emulate.
We just asked ourselves the other day, it still is very fresh in our minds, and we were wondering, has a year really gone? But that is how life goes, and only God understands the mystery of life.
On June 10, 2012, a police chopper bounced to land in Dhiwa, carrying the internal security boss and his deputy, Oro Jode, their 2 bodyguards and 2 pilots, crashed, killing everyone aboard, all destined for a fundraiser in Ojode's constituency. July 10th perceived a dark date on the country's calendar, having claimed many other prominent Kenyan leaders.
George, we love you, and you'll always occupy a special place in our heart. We who are believers in the Almighty God have no doubt that we'll one day join you in heaven.
As if to diffuse the devolution fallout between the executive and senators, the president urged for a ceasefire in the ongoing tussle over devolution. Uhuru says the supremacy of the constitution that spells out the 2 levels of government ought to be respected.
And every one of us overwhelmingly voted for this new constitution. That constitution was not supposed to divide us.
Uhuru called on leaders to focus on service delivery rather than engage in power games, saying Kenyans should embrace peaceful coexistence to foster progressive and a prosperous nation.
Let us engage less in squabbles and focus more on what we can do for this nation and for the people of this country.
The late Professor George Saitoti served the country both in the Moi and Kibaki regimes for a period spanning over 30 years. Samugina, KTN, Nairobi.
In the same breath, Deputy President William Ruto has called for an end to the supremacy battle between the Senate and the National Assembly on county funding, saying it was an unnecessary distraction to the national agenda. Ruto says senators have nothing to worry about and the Jubilee government will honor its election manifesto of devolving 40% of the national resources to the county government. The Deputy President, who was speaking at Lodwar Stadium, Turkana County, during the homecoming party of Speaker of the Senate, Ekwe Thuro, criticized those claiming that Jubilee is killing devolution, saying the Jubilee government would not engage in activities that could derail the country from that route. He is now calling on both the Senate and the National Assembly to find an amicable solution to the controversy, saying it was not prudent to take the matter to the Supreme Court for interpretation, yet there are less acrimonious avenues of solving the issue.
Sisi tulisema tutaweka 40% ya pesa za nchi ziende katika serikali za ugatuzi ama county governments. Tunaelewana? Na wale wanaozungumza na kuendesha siasa duni ya kusema eti kuna mpango ya kuua ugatuzi, kuna mpango ya kumaliza makaunti, hiyo ni siasa ambayo haina nafasi katika karne hii katika taifa la Kenya ya mwaka huu.
Now, while the president and his deputy were preaching peace, two members of parliament and the leader of the majority in the Senate, Kithure Kindiki, differed publicly over the controversial county funding. Mbeere North Member of Parliament Charles Nyagagwa supported the 210 billion shillings allocation, saying the Senate is only involved in the revenue allocation to the counties, but Parliament determines the actual amount. However, Kindiki, in a sharp rejoinder, told the gathering that it was not his business to know whether it was the Senate or Parliament which was superior to the other.
We know that about 8 counties are saying hawana pesa, but progressively, kwanza mchukue hiyo 210, maybe by December tutaleta supplementary budget, alafu mtagawa hizo zingine.
We must equalize this country. That is the only solution. And the only thing that can equalize development is devolution. Watu wapate pesa yao ya maendeleo. Wakitaka kukula wakulie huko, shauri yao.
Right, police in Nairobi have unearthed a fake passport printing syndicate in Westlands that could have been used in facilitating the movement of criminal elements in and out of the country. At the same time, they have also recovered stolen goods worth thousands of shillings from at least 6 business premises in Kayole. Patrick Amimo reports on the Nairobi Police Department's recent crime-busting efforts.
A police operation in Parker Road apartment in Westlands recovered a number of Kenyan and foreign passports that have been illegally printed by super service printers. Also recovered were diplomatic passports.
The said firm has been in operation for the last 7 years. The firm deals in computer graphics. The firm also deals in printing materials, screen printing, posters, print materials, including passports, identity cards, living certificates, visas for various countries.
Some of the printed items recovered include new generation Kenyan identity cards and those from neighboring countries. There were also automated teller machine cards for various banks from neighboring countries. However, the fake passports have raised the police security antenna about the firm's possibility of assisting criminal elements.
The documents printed are so smart to be detected unless one has an hook-eyed. Among the major printing seals is that of British High Commission, which we believe was successfully used through JKIA to London, only to be detected in London when the holder of the passport was briefly held and released as the holder was at a close watch by the security agents.
The police operation also targeted the eastlands parts of Nairobi, where stolen goods were recovered in 5 premises in Kayole Estate. Among the recovered items are laptops, gas cylinders, mobile phones, radio cassettes, DVDs and television sets.
We have also a mobile phone repair kit and other 100 cables for flashing stolen phones.
The operation followed increased cases of insecurity in the eastern part of Nairobi, where residents have been mugged and even their houses broken into and goods stolen. There have also been cases where people have been carjacked and robbed in the eastern part of Nairobi. Owners of the premises where the stolen goods were recovered are assisting police with investigations.
We wish to appeal to public to desist from buying, selling, or retaining suspected stolen property.
Police say members of the public can come to identify the recovered stolen goods at Nairobi Area Police Headquarters. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Elsewhere, motorists along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway were stranded for more than 12 hours at the Gilgil Way Bridge. The traffic snarl-up that was similar to the one experienced at Mariakani and Mlolongo recently was blamed on the slow procedures used to clear trailers plying the Nairobi-Nakuru route. And as KTN's Catherine Omwantho reports, traffic police are blaming Kenya Revenue Authority for the driver's woes.
According to motorists, the traffic snarl-up at Gilgil was close to 10 kilometers long, and the blame, according to Samuel Kimaru, is squarely on the Kenya Revenue Authority and SGS company charged to manage the Gilgil Way Bridge.
There is a sort of inadequacy in the measuring system, in the weighing system. We have only one machine being used from the side of Nairobi. These vehicles which are coming from Nairobi. There is only one machine there. And then from the other side, there is only one machine.
Aside from the outdated machinery used to weigh trailers, the traffic was worsened by impatient drivers who opted to overlap, causing an even bigger mess.
We left Nakuru around 6:30 in the evening. Coming here, the jam started from Gilgil. A big jam. We couldn't believe it. And by the time we were reaching Naivasha, it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Kwa hivyo ningeomba serikali watutengenezee mezani hii ya meza waondoe hii at least gari inakuja inakanyanga safari moja na inaondoka at least itajaribu kupunguza hii jam.
For 12 hours starting last night, motorists were stuck in the jam, which eased up later this afternoon. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Mobile service provider Safaricom, in partnership with the Communications Commission of Kenya and the National Environment Management Authority (NEMA), have today launched a campaign to educate the public on the impact of wrongful disposal of electronic waste. As part of the campaign, members of the public can drop off their unused electronics at the WE Center, where the waste will be dismantled in the correct way and recycled. Najma Ismail reports on the disposal of e-waste that is being blamed for the rising cases of cancer.
Electronic devices contain a variety of materials, including metals that can be recovered for recycling. But at the same time, the same devices also contain high enough levels of certain materials, such as lead, that render them hazardous waste when disposed. This is the reason why CCK, Safaricom and NEMA have come together to curb the e-waste.
Look at your children, look at your expectant wife, look at your grandchildren, look at your siblings, and ask yourself, do you want them to enjoy a good future?
So we are now in the process of doing an e-waste regulation, which is at advanced stages of completion. We have done the content in terms of what is really electronic waste.
As part of the project, a caravan will traverse the city over a period of 5 weeks, collecting electronic waste in more than 120 residential areas. Experts say that wrongful disposal of electronics has greatly contributed to the escalation of cancer. The killer disease has been on the rise in Kenya and accounts for 1 in 8 deaths worldwide, beating AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria combined.
There are certain hydrocarbons or chemicals which can be emitted as a result of that processing, and this include hydrocarbons, mercury, cadmium, lead, and these substances are they can accumulate in somebody's body. They are bioaccumulative, and with the time they can cause cancer to the individuals.
Statistics indicate that over 17,000 tons of e-waste is generated in Kenya annually, with mobile phones, personal computers and printers contributing to over 3,000 tons. So where does all this waste go to?
Hizi vitu za electronic wakati tunatumia zikiharibika ama ichomeke na stima tunatupa nje. Saa zingine zinapatikana kwa scrap metal, saa zingine ni kutupa tu yani.
Tunatupa tu huko nje. Chokora wanakuja wanachukua, sijui wanapelekaga wapi.
Children like Samuel and Walter have cancer. They need your help. They need you to dispose of your unused electronics in the correct manner. Najma Ismail, KTN.
Let's stay on health, and all patients under the age of 23 who suffer type 1 diabetes will now be able to access insulin for free. Kenyatta National Hospital will dispense the insulin to needy children whose parents cannot afford it. The hospital is currently treating over 200 children, even as medical practitioners warn that cases of childhood diabetes are on the rise. Wilkis Tanyabo reports on the condition, which, though treatable, cannot be cured.
Kenyatta National Hospital had a special announcement.
The insulin will be available at Kenyatta National Hospital for free for patients under 23 years old.
This initiative targeting children from across the country suffering childhood diabetes. 8 8-year-old Zablon and his mother have been making the trip to Kenyatta for years, since he was a baby. He was just a year old when he was first diagnosed with a condition.
Alikuwa na mwaka moja na miezi 8. Ndio akaanza kukojoa, ile haikuwa inapungua.
The diagnosis would turn their world upside down.
Ugonjwa wa sukari inakuanga ni ya watu wale wazee, watu wakubwa, lakini si ya watoto. Sasa ndio nikajiuliza mtoto anaweza patwa aje na ugonjwa wa sukari?
They are now adjusting to a normal life, but theirs is a new normal. Thrice a day for 7 years now, Zablon has had to receive insulin injections. This means that wherever he goes, he carries with him his insulin.
Kwa shuleni saa zingine anaenda na dawa, na kuna mwalimu wake nimemfundisha, ameelewa.
And while his mother gave him a hand when he was younger, Zablon is now old enough to take matters into his own hands. He checks his own blood sugar levels and injects himself with insulin.
Najidunga mchana, saa lunch na usiku. Sisikii kitu.
Type 1 diabetes in children is a condition in which the child's pancreas no longer produces insulin, meaning one needs to replace the missing insulin. Treatment is a lifelong commitment of blood sugar monitoring, insulin injections, healthy eating, and regular exercise.
The children, when they get diabetes, the type 1 diabetes, the pancreas stops making insulin and doesn't grow again. So they have diabetes for life.
Jane, a trader at Gikomba Market, often finds it difficult to raise the funds to purchase a vial of insulin.
1 vial is going to cost 500 shillings. And the child, it depends, children can use 6 vials in a month.
But insulin for these young patients means life. The insulin at the Kenyatta National Hospital is to be provided at no cost to needy patients until they are 23, an age where they are deemed independent enough to purchase the insulin. Between now and then, the free insulin meant to give them and their parents peace of mind. Wilkis Anyapwa, KTN Saturday Night.
Now, ever thought a borehole could get you excited? Well, in one part of Rongai district of Nakuru County, a borehole has created a buzz among the villagers of Ruyoboi location. After drinking salty water for years and walking for 4 kilometers to find it, who wouldn't be excited? Mashiri Makapombe reports.
A water fountain is one of the most exciting ornaments that light up a landscape. Watching the water rise up and drop down, or just slide down an immaculate rocky fountain is enough to make some just want to have a photo next to it. In one part of Kenya, however, this ornament is only a dream, perhaps one that residents wouldn't even imagine. A dusty road with life moving in the background is the picture that proclaims the state of affairs in a very unlikely part of the country, Rongai district of Nakuru County. Children with donkeys laden with empty jerrycans of water make their way to a promising destination. The Tuyotich solar-powered borehole is the newest sensation in this part of Kenya, but more so for the residents of Ruyoboi location. And for some like Diana Tanui, walking 4 kilometers daily to get a piece of this life is not something she would abandon so easily.
Tulikuwa tukitumia maji ya mashimo ya kuchimba kutoka chini, tunachimba, tunachotea mifugo na sisi wenyewe tunakunywa hayo maji.
The saline waters of Lake Solai and some dams in the area is not the only reason that makes residents of Ruyoboi location line up daily.
Hapo mbeleni tukichotea mifugo hayo maji tunachota karibu nusu saa, hayo maji yanaisha. Inabidi tena tuongoje mpaka tena karibu nusu saa ingine tena maji ikue juu kidogo tuanze kuchotea.
Na tumekuwa na shida mingi ya typhoid kwa sababu ya maji chafu na pia ufunguvu wa wanafunzi kuenda shule kwa sababu ya shida ya maji katika manyumba.
According to the chief and non-governmental organizations that have pitched camp here, the need for water had become more of a priority than school.
At times these kids were coming to school late. They used to go to look for water, which they were traveling to around 7 kilometers trying to look for water.
The scorching sun that always seems to threaten to dry up anything moist, however, seems to have become the salvation for residents here. Solar panels producing some 15,000 watts has become the reason that residents can now maintain 1,000-watt smiles.
The borehole is serving 400 families, households. That is around 2,400 people.
The Tuyotich borehole is just one of 7 that have been set up by non-governmental organizations in parts of Rongai and Subukia districts that are yet to have piped water find its way here. And with county government slowly taking shape, perhaps Diana and her neighbors will not have to walk 4 kilometers to get to this borehole, and they will have a new sensation that is tapped water within their homes. Mashirima Kapombe, KTN.
And a Swiss national remanded in custody on charges related to prostitution has been released on bail. Christopher Wenceread spent 38 days at the Shimolatewa prison while raising a 1 million shilling bond to secure his release. A frail-looking Christopher, accompanied by his lawyer Francis Kadima, declined to talk to the press. His lawyer, however, confirmed that his client's bond has been cleared, adding that his client was free because he is innocent. 11 girls, together with the Swiss national, were arrested on May 8th in Nyali on suspicion of engaging in prostitution and pornography. The 12 accused were arraigned before Senior Principal Magistrate Richard Odeyo and were charged with the exploitation of prostitution and living on earnings of prostitution. 11 women have already been released on 100,000 shilling bond each. However, police are yet to arrest a Kenyan woman from Karatina who allegedly assisted the foreigner to recruit girls for the pornography sessions in Nyali.
Yeah, he's released on bond. As you know, he's innocent in the eyes of the law until the contrary is proved. All you have read in the press, all those were just pure fabrications. We are governed by the sub judice rule. We cannot discuss the case.
You're watching Saturday Night Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're taking a short break, but coming your way just ahead is soldiering on despite losing a... Thank you for staying with Saturday Night Live. Now, Uhuru Kenyatta sits pretty at State House, Nairobi as President of the Republic of Kenya. But for residents of Makinalindi in Kibera slums, they have their own Mr. President, one Dr. Savai Lihanda. You will remember him as the one whose presidential dream was cut short in 2002 after he failed to garner 1,000 signatures required to enable his name to be on the ballot paper. Our reporter Patrick Amimo spent some time with Dr. Savai Kemene Lihanda, who maintains Kibera slum would have remained his resident had he realized his dream to be Kenya's president. Take a look.
73-year-old Dr. Savai Lihanda lives in Kibera slum. In 2002, Lihanda set his eyes on the presidency. But when he met the then electoral boss, the late Samuel Kivuitu, he did not have signatures of 1,000 voters to have his name on the presidential ballot paper.
And he is requesting that he be given 14 days.
Because it was the second and last day for the commission to receive nomination papers, Savai's request was not granted, and with it, maybe a well-paying job.
I have been here for 15 years with 5 degrees without anything. I will go.
And this was his parting shot.
Kenya, we are not still independent yet.
Though those present appeared tickled by Savai's theatrics, it was not a laughing matter for him. 11 years on, Savai shared his thoughts about that fateful day.
Yes, I saw like a dream lost.
Savai, the scholar, graduated with 5 degrees from the University of Athens in Greece, where he was a student for 20 years.
I did the PhD in comparative education.
Despite having been given the power to read and do all that pertains to those degrees, Savai could not land a government job after he jetted back in 1988.
Wherever I went to work, they could tell me, we shall employ you, but we find that you are higher in education, you have many degrees. You will accuse us, we are paying you under. I went to public service, I was interviewed. They told me they would give me more higher job. as a secretary in a ministry. And they told me to hang on. They never did. Went to University, Kenyatta. I applied there. After going to check on them, they told me they forgot to write to me.
Savai believes the KANU regime was the cause of his tribulations after it erroneously labeled him as a Batua while studying abroad.
Somebody told me you have been reported to Kenya that you want to overturn the government. You don't want the KANU.
And this is how Dr. Savai would run government if he were to become president.
I will use power to make some strategies, scientific ones, by force. They say here water, here should be this. If there is no money, they say why.
But then, would he have moved residents to State House?
Yeah, I could not move until I see that these people, they get title deed for the land because it's their land. And even if there is no need somebody to go to city as a president just to be told stories, he must be practical. I have seen Europeans abroad there who have been ex-president, who have been what, they just walking in public. Even the prime minister just passes in people. Oh, prime minister, without security, cars following him with pika-piki.
This is Makina Lindi in Kibra, where one Kenyan citizen, Dr. Savai Lihanda, once attempted to be Kenya's president, but his dream never came true. And you've heard his story. Reporting for KTN from Kibra, I'm Patrick Amimo.
Patrick Amimo there with Dr. Savai Kemeni Lihanda, the man who attempted to be Kenya's president at some point. To a weekly Saturday series survivor. At the tender age of 12, Eric Kioko lived the life of a thug. As he grew older, he decided that he will not die on the streets, but rather make something of himself. However, in 2008, when he had just got his act together, he was attacked and had his hand chopped off. But that has in no way stopped the rise of Eric, aka DJ Talanta, who is determined to live an honest life, no matter the challenges. Catherine Omwanto is up next with our survivor of the week, 31-year-old Eric Kioko. Take a look.
In the last 4 years, 31-year-old Eric Kioko has learned to keep it together. He says music has helped him to do so.
Reggae nimeanza kusikiza kitambo. Na by the way sikusoma sana. Nilifikanga class 3. Lakini talent yangu iko juu sana hata kuliko mtu amesoma.
Eric grew up on the wrong side of the tracks.
Kusachido tukiwa wadogo, tukiwa na miaka 5 hapo. Tulikuwa tunaokota makaa, tunapeleka kwa hoteli, unapata tunapatiwa kitu ya kula. Tunaiba tu vijiko, saa zingine hata home, tunapeleka kwa hiyo hoteli. Tunakatakatio mandazi na supu, tunasikia tuko poa. Sasa unapata hata hatuendi shule.
As Eric and his friends got older, the crimes became more dangerous. He shows us a photo album. Most of his friends were either lynched by mobs or killed by police.
Mimi nilikujaga nikaonaga talent yangu si ya wizi. Sasa hiyo 1998 nikakuwa nimeanza kuendanga kudansa muziki kwa club. Hivyo polepole tu nikiwa MC kidogo.
He then tried his hand at being a disc jockey and adopted the name DJ Talanta. Soon almost every reggae club wanted a piece of him.
Kwa nimejua talent yangu sana ya DJ, kaanzanga kazi tu 2000 ya DJ. Kaanzanga kwenda Kisumu. Nilianza kwanza na Nairobi.
Eric says he never really understood tribalism until January 2008 when it stared at him dead in the face.
Saa 2007 kufika. Nilikuwa tu Kisumu hiyo kazi ya DJ mahali panaitwa Malanga. Nikiwa na spin, chaguzi inaendelea na mimi nacheza ngoma. Mimi hata sikuvote. Nikiwa tu nacheza muziki, kuna raia walikuja after kusikia Kibaki ndiye ameshinda. Sasa ikakuwa ukuche gikwalo kura. Sawa wamekuja wakiniambia mimi ni Mkikuyu tumeiba kura na mimi mwenyewe hata sikuvotigi. Ikakuwa imeanza kunitishia wewe tutakuchoma wewe nini lakini saa juu ni mtu tofauti na mwenye alikuwa amenipeanga kazi, anaitwa Oti sasa. Yeye juu ni Mjaluo ikakuwa amewazuia. Kaza kutoka pale kwa floor pale tulikuwa tunacheza muziki, akanipeleka hadi kwa boma.
While hiding out, Eric watched the post-election events unfold on TV. He finally managed to make it back to Nairobi's Mathare slums, back to his family. One night, Eric had a bout of heroism.
Tukiota moto tulianza kusikia mabati zikigongo-gongo. Puf, puf. Sasa kila mtu atafuta njia ya kutorokea. Sasa mimi venye nilienda, nilisikianga sauti ya mama. Saa hizo ni saa 3 usiku. Sauti ya mama akiwa chini. Stima zilikuwa zimekatokato ya Mathare. Alikuwa anarepiwa juu. Alikuwa ako chini na kuna watu wamemzunguka. Sasa mimi kurusha mawe pale, kumbe kuna wenye walinichukulia cover, washaniona. Nilipatana na watu 3 wamenichukulia cover. Na mimi usema gadi saa mbele ya Mwenyezi Mungu, sikuonanga hiyo panga hata ikiinuliwa. Mimi hii mkono nilistukiaga, nimeinua hivi juu na nimegadi hivi na imekatwa na ikaanguka. Na hapo bado Mungu alinipeanga nguvu kukimbia kutoka Mathare hapo 3C mpaka Air Force kwa gate. Ni distance.
He sought treatment at the Kenyatta National Hospital, which at the time was overwhelmed with the injured during the violence. Eric was later taken to Kikuyu Hospital where he was properly treated for his injuries. Once his first wife heard of the incident, she ran away. He's not sure what prompted her to leave, whether it was because she was from Nyanza or because he was now Eric, the man with one hand. All the while, his friend Anne stayed by his side.
Tukachat, akanizingisha nikienda home. So ndio sasa tulienda hivyo, ndio kama kaanza kunikatia. Ndio nikaingia box. Lakini sikuwa nikisema itakuja kuwe hivyo, lakini musemaga tu ni God.
Eric having one hand never bothered Anne, but it did bother others.
Watu obvious, watu hawezi kosa kuongea. Watu watuongea. Juu kuna wengine hata walikuwa wanauliza yenyewe ulifikiriaje mtu ana mkono mmoja kuishi naye. Yenyewe mimi nilikuwa nawaambia yenyewe nikaa lab tu.
Support from Anne and constant prayer, Eric decided to move on with his life and not dwell on what has happened to him, even though he earned a new status.
Na respect sana Maji kwa kunipatia hiyo kazi. Tu wengi ulikuwa unapata nikienda kumwambia naweza fanya hii kazi, hata hiyo DJ. Unapata mtu anaona huyu hakuna kitu anaweza fanya.
Usilose hope, hata usimchukie, hata usimhepe ati vile msikiaga wengine wanasema ati chalengu sijui hata kukosa job ati unahepa hazi yako so unaenda kujikalisha nini. Life tu ni kung'ang'ana. Mkiwa wawili mtasaidiana.
Apart from the internally displaced, there are a number of people who are mentally and physically scarred by the post-election violence, and up to today they have not heard an apology from the government. Eric is a good example. He is a man who has forgiven his attackers and at the same time has devoted his life by paying back in kindness and peace. Catherine Omwando for the Survivor Series.
Catherine Omwantho there with the Survivor Series. Catherine, thank you so much for that. Of course, that has uplifted a lot of people. You're watching Saturday Night Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're taking a short break. I'll be hand that's on our Survivor Series. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at sports now. We begin with World Cup qualifiers, and Uganda Cranes came from a goal down to Eclipse Angola 2-1 in a World Cup Group 1 qualifying match in Kampala this afternoon. Botswana struggled to edge out Central African Republic 3-2 in Gaborone, while Zambia settled to a 1-1 draw with Sudan. Job had given Angola the leading goal on 57 minutes, but the Cranes fought back to restore parity on 83 minutes through Emmanuel Okwi. Tony Mawenje ensured the Cranes took the group's leadership with 8 points. In Gaborone Hots, Botswana came from a goal down to defeat Central African Republic 3-2. Former African champion Zambia settled to a 1-1 draw with Sudan. Jacob Mulenga had scored fought home side first in the 70th minute, but the Sudanese equalized 2 minutes later. African and national volleyball feminine champions Kenya Prisons bounced back from a defeat to ARC rivals Kenya Pipeline in a league match to dismiss Schoolgirls of Malava 3-0 in a Group A match of the ongoing Amaco volleyball tournament in Eldoret. The African Queens made minced meat of the leading volleyball school as they won 25-15, 25-11 and 25-12. Kenya Commercial Bank started their quest with a 3-0 defeat against Rift Valley Technical Training Institute to enhance the chances of qualifying for pre-quarterfinals. Kenya Pipeline recorded back-to-back victories. The oil merchants beat Mautuma 3-0 and went ahead to overcome Kamago 3-0 in men's category. Ulinzi became the first team to reach quarters after they won their opening 2 matches. The Defence Forces overcame Forest Rangers 3-2 before bringing down Kenya Airways 3-0. The national men's champions Kenya Prison saw off their Mombasa counterparts 25-18, 25-17 and 26-24. Let's now take a look at hockey, where action is currently underway at the City Park Stadium. Mombasa Sports Club are seeking to shut out Western Jaguars in a match that started at 2 p.m. After that tie, USIU Africa women's team will lock horns with Kenyatta University from 4 p.m. before USIU men takes on Strathmore University in a men's Premier League match under floodlights. 5 matches have been scheduled for tomorrow. Action on Sunday starts at 9 a.m. where Multimedia University hosts Kenyatta University. Former men's champions Kenya Police will entertain Western Jaguars, who will be playing the second match of the weekend. Green Sharks are scheduled to face off with Mombasa Sports Club before Multimedia and the National Youth Service take on each other.
At the Nyai National Stadium Gymnasium. In the first quarter, Lions looked to struggle as Cooperative Bank used their experience to easily take the quarter 14-11. But things turned on the second quarter, with Lions outsmarting their fellow bankers 22-11. The third quarter was highly contested for, and it was won by the Cooperative Bank 26-11. However, the last quarter was a one-sided affair as the Lions roared louder as they charged to cut the deficit 21-6 to seal an important 65-55 victory. In another match, Mennonites women's team were humiliated 118-15 by Thunder. In the Hockey Premier League, Ronald Ababu's last flick was all the Mombasa side needed as they raced into their first win of the season. Mombasa edged out Western Jaguars 2-1. Michael Toroitich met amends in the 33rd minute for the Jaguars with a powerful strike. However, the cookie would crumble for Jaguars in the second period as Evanson Alulu drew the team's level just 10 minutes from the restart after deflecting a cutting-through pass from Victor Agitani. In the latest match, the much-anticipated ladies' varsity derby between the USIU Africa team and the Kenyatta University had to be called off as a result of heavy downpour at the City Park Stadium. It was a sigh of relief for the Kenyatta University ladies, since by the time of the stoppage, they were trailing 0-5 with only 25 minutes gone on the clock.